Okay. Thank God today's going to be a complicated one. Second half of today. Don't worry. Okay, so right in the middle, Bayi Rava. Rava inquired. Yeah. There'll be 10 lines or 15 lines for the Mishnah. Bayi Rava. Rava asked the following question. So we know that the flour offerings have some oil and have some flour, some of them at least. So komates shemitza shmeno al gabe eitzim. Komates, but some of the oil got squeezed out onto the wood on the altar. So now you're supposed to put it together onto the altar. So now some oil got squeezed out. So on the one hand, it's separate. It's separate from the flour. On the other hand, it's going to come together on the altar. So do you view that as separate or view that as connected still? So Mahu chibure olin ke olin damu. We say things that are going to be up on the altar are considered attached. Right now they're separate. The oil got squeezed out on the altar, but the flour is coming soon. And when they get to the altar, they're going to be reunited at last. So Shemitah Shemein al Gavei Mahu chibure olin ke olin damu olav ke olin damu. Is that considered like a proper sacrifice, or is it not? Meaning, do you view that it's like you're offering the oil and the flour together and that's good, but you're offering them separately and it's not good? So this sounds like Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish in another area. The Itmar, what does it say over there? Hamala Avrish Ein Bo Kazayis. You go and sacrifice a piece of an animal, a limb of an animal outside the temple, which is not right, but it doesn't have a kazayas. But save the cost. But the bone finishes off the measurement. So you have the limb itself is not an olive's worth, but with the bone, it is an olive's worth. Etzem mashlim the kazayas. So is that good or not? Meaning, are we going to roast you or not? So Rabbi Yochanan Amar. You roast your limbs with your bones or no? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan says, yes, you are liable. Reish Lakish Amar Pater. Reish Lakish says you are exempt. Now, why does one say you're liable and one say you're exempt? Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Chayiv Chibure Olin Kolin Damu. Rabbi Yochanan says, listen, right now they're attached. So the meat and the bone are attached together. We're going to view them as one unit, and therefore it's going to fulfill the Kazayas quota. Reish Lakish Amar Pater, no, Chiburi Olam Nafkol Nabu. Reish Lakish says that you're exempt because just because things are attached when they go up doesn't mean they're really attached. So at the end of the day, you're lacking a kazayas and olive's worth of meat of the limb. The bone is not going to help you. So that should be the same thing over here. If you have oil that's detached, so Rabbi Yochanan will say there, since they go together up on the altar, they're going to be attached, and Reish Lakish will disagree. So says the Gemara, not necessarily. Each one could differ in our case. So let's see how. This question that we're asking, it could be a question to both Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. It's not an exact parallel. Why? Maybe Rabbi Yochanan only said when he was talking about the bone and the limb, because that's like one species. That's like one. It's one. So it's all part of the body. But in our case, there's oil and there's flour. They're not the same thing. They come together, but not the same thing. So maybe even he'll agree that it's not considered attached, and you have not fulfilled your mincha korban, your mincha offering. Or Dilma Fila Reish Lakish Loka Amar Ela Be'etzim Davar Mifrashu the Iparish Lav Mitzvah Lahadure. Maybe Reish Lakish says that you're not liable for offering up this piece of the limb less than a kazayas because the bone, if you were to detach the bone, there's no mitzvah to put up a bone up on the altar. So therefore, just because it happens to come together now with the meat does not make it connected. Aval shemen delavar mifrashu lo, but oil is something which has to be put on the altar. It's not something separate. It's part of the requirements to put on the altar. So therefore, maybe even Reish Lakish will hold over here that they are connected. Or maybe not. Or maybe they will parallel their argument over there, will parallel themselves over here. Take them. So this question of Rava could be really a question both for Rish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, and it remains unresolved. Okay, here comes our thinking hats. Yeah, so it sounds easier, but then somebody on the next page posted all the opinions, and they said, "Let's see how the fancy does with this." Has like a bunch of opinions according to opinions, like So, okay, let's see. We'll go slowly. We have time. Good. Shtei menachos shelo nikmatzu v'nis arvu zu b'zu im yachol likmot mizu b'fnei atzma u'mizu b'fnei atzma ksheiros v'imlav psulos. Two flour offerings that both had not been mitzad, the flour has not been scooped up, and they got mixed together. V'nis arvu zu b'zu. So what do you do? So im yachol likmot mizu b'fnei atzma u'mizu b'fnei atzma ksheiros. Meaning, if there's enough, you could scoop out of one the proper amount, and then scoop out again a proper amount. You have two scoops, then you're good to go. Just do that, offer it up, and we'll give you an aliyah on Shabbos. Yeah. So if there's not enough, if you're not able to scoop out two proper scoopfuls, so then they are invalid. Then they are puzzled. Yeah. That's interesting. 1 second. Yeah. Yeah. So so Rashi earlier speaks about this. Meaning, it's not just that they get totally mixed together. Rashi earlier says that they fell on different sides of the vessel, and you're able to actually identify one's here, and you could scoop up from each one. That's fine. But if you're not able, in la psulat means that you have the amount of two scoopfuls, but the problem is they're mixed together, so you cannot clearly, you can't see anymore which is mincha A and which is mincha B. So Rashi says, why is that a problem? Because it says in the Medrash, there's the Agadic Medrash, and then there's Halachic Medrash. So it says, Misol Tavalo Misolas Chaverta. You have to take from its flour and not from another sacrifice's flour. So if two of them fall and you identify which one is which, and there's enough from that one, so let's say you have a large amount of flour from one sacrifice that fell into another cup of another sacrifice. So if part of them got mixed together, but there's still part that's clearly identifiable, so then just take one out from here and take one out from here, and you're good to go. But if not, if it's two mixed together, that's a problem of taking from another sacrifice's flour. Yeah. So that's the first thing. That's case one. Case two. So if you have a kometz that the kometz got mixed together with an offering that was not yet kmitzad. So kometz, your kometz, you scoop it out, got mixed out, it fell out of your hand. So now what do you do? So we say lo yaktir, you cannot offer this up. The im hiktir, and if you do it, so zusha nikmitza olo lebailim, the zusha lo nikmitza olo lebailim. If you do it, well then at the end of the day, the offering that kmitza was taken out of, and then it fell back in. But that offering A that kmitza was taken out of, even though it fell back in, if you end up putting it back on the altar, you have fulfilled your obligation. Obviously, the offering that kmitza has not been taken off of, that happens to go on the altar inappropriately, that you have obviously not fulfilled your obligation. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And case number 3 is Nis'arev komtza b'shiareho. So now we know that there's two parts. There's the kometz part that goes on the altar, and then there's the remnant part that the kohen get to eat. So let's say your kometz part got mixed together with your shiraim. It's the same offering. It's just the flour that was going to be put onto the altar got mixed with the flour that was remaining, the shiraim, the remnants. But from the same offering, that got mixed together. So what do you do now? So Nis'arev komtza b'shirah or b'shirah shel chaverta, or in remnants of another person's of another mincha offering, lo yaktir, you cannot offer it up. If you do it though, ola le bailim. Why can't you offer it up? Because you cannot offer the remnants up. You cannot offer the remnants up. If you do it, so yes, you fulfill your obligation, but you're not supposed to do that because remnants are supposed to be eaten and not offered up. Okay, so 3 cases, and 3 cases. Counted for the owner, right? At the end of the day, you took meats off and it fell back in, but you offered it up, so he gets the check. But that the Kohen who put up the remnants is going to get a minus because he shouldn't put up remnants on the altar. Oh, no. What is that? Oh, no. That's right. Now, okay, we're going to have a debate now of Sister Bichanina. This is where it gets a little complicated. But just to remember quickly from yesterday is that we had a very major debate between Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis. Rabbi Yehuda holds in the entire Torah that two things of the same species do not nullify each other. Yom Kippur blood that got mixed together is still referred to as the blood of the bull and the blood of the he-goat. Just because they were mixed together, one does not nullify the other, even though the blood of the bull there's much more blood of the bull than there is blood of the he-goat. However, one does not nullify the other. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The rabbis disagree vehemently, and they say no. Things of the same species definitely nullify each other. Just things that are offered up on the altar, those things, special pasuk, do not nullify each other. So really for the rabbis, the same species definitely nullify each other. No question about it. However, if it's things that are sacrificial that are brought up on the altar, then they'll agree to Rabbi Yehuda. Okay. So, Amar Rav Chisda, you have a nevela. It's a nevela betela b'shchuta. So you have I guess 3 pieces of meat. You're not sure which is which, but you know that one of them is a nevela and 2 of them were slaughtered properly. The one is meat that was not slaughtered properly, and 2 is meat that is slaughtered properly. So now nevela causes impurity. Now Rashi keeps picking on like the impurity, the transfer impurity. I don't know why we're not talking about like just eating it itself. I'm not sure. Unless I don't know, maybe we'll see. I don't know. But okay, either way. So a nevela causes impurity. So now if you touch one of these pieces of meat, are you now impure? Well, one's a nevela, so maybe yeah, but 2 are slaughtered. So what's the answer? So Rav Chisda says nevela is betela b'shchuta. A nevela is going to be nullified to the other pieces of meat. And here comes the logic, which we'll see if it fits with anybody or its own opinion. It's impossible for the slaughtered animal to become nevela. What does that mean? That when the majority, the thing it's being nullified to, is not able to be the minority, then you say that we go after the majority. Meaning, you have one piece of meat that's an nevela; it was not slaughtered properly. You have 2 pieces that are slaughtered. Rav Chisda said it gets nullified in the nevela is nullified to the other 2. Therefore, if you touch any of them, you are not impure, because it's impossible for the slaughtered meat to ever become a nevela. Now, what does that do for us? So Rashi explains, since it's impossible for the slaughtered meat to become not slaughtered, I know it goes the other way too, but just for this case for a second, 2 pieces of slaughtered meat, 1 piece of not slaughtered meat, it's impossible for the slaughtered meat, the majority, to become the minority, the not slaughtered meat. Therefore, it makes it like 2 different species. If it's 2 different species, we have nullification. One will nullify the other, even though they're both meat. They're both pieces, look exactly the same. But you know one came from the non-kosher butcher shop. That chicken breast came from not from Trader Joe's or Safeway, from somewhere else. And then you have 2 that came from the kosher section. So we view them as 2 different species because the shechita cannot become available. Yeah, but then you forgot which is which. Yeah, classic husband mistake. Yeah, so fine. Now the shchuta eina betela benevela. Same thing. 1 piece of slaughtered meat in 2 pieces of not slaughtered meat. That's Rav Chisda. Same thing. Why? Because what's the majority here? The non-slaughtered meat. Can the non-slaughtered meat ever become slaughtered? The shchuta eina betela benevela. She'efshel nevela she'te'aseh shchuta. So we say that here we don't say the slaughtered meat is nullified in the not slaughtered meat. You have 1 piece of kosher meat, 2 pieces of not kosher meat. So here we do not say that the minority is nullified into the majority and they all will contaminate you. We don't say that. Why not? Because it's possible for the nevela shetease shruta. I guess this is why it's talking about purity and not eating. A nevela can become the same level as a slaughtered meat. Now, what does that mean? You're not going to slaughter again. The animal is dead. What it means in the world of purity, a animal that was not slaughtered is now impure. Nevela gives off impurity. However, when it becomes not edible anymore, it loses its status as nevela. The Torah says it's only nevela as long as it's consumed, possible to be eaten. Once it gets to a level where it's sour and it's fully spoiled and it can't be eaten, a special novelty, special verse teaches you that it no longer has a status of nevela. So that is like a shruta. They both will not give off impurity. So that's already the same species. That's not a different species. If it's the same species, so then it's not going to be nullified. Okay. That is Rav Chisda. Now, Rabbi Chanina Amar, Tol she'ef shel lios kamohu, eino batel. Anything which could be like the other one is not going to be nullified. Okay. V'kol she'ef shel lios kamohu batel. If it could be like its friend, it's not going to be nullified because we're going to view them as the same species. If it cannot be like its friend, then it could be nullified. Sounds like the same thing, no? So, what's the difference? So, meaning, if the minority can be similar to the majority, then it's not going to be nullified. So, therefore, if you have one nevela, it's not going to be nullified in the shruta. That's where they disagree. By the first case, one piece of not kosher meat and two pieces of kosher meat. So Rav Chisda said, for sure it's nullified because the majority can never become the minority. It can never cause impurity. So therefore, it'll nullify the other one. But Rav Chanina says that no, since the minority, he says, look at the minority, not the majority. That's the difference. Rav Chisda says, look at the majority. So if the majority is kosher meat, it can never become like the non-kosher meat in terms of giving off purities. Therefore, it will nullify. Rabbi Chanina says, look at the minority. Can the minority become like the majority? Yes, the non-kosher meat could spoil. Then it will no longer cause contamination. So therefore, in terms of contamination, we could view it as the same species, and therefore it's not going to be nullified. But basically, do you go after the majority that nullifies, or go after the minority that becomes nullified? So that is Rabbi Chanina. So according to Rabbi Chanina, if the minority is non-kosher meat, it becomes the same species and therefore does not get nullified. If the minority is kosher meat, if the minority is kosher and the majority is non-kosher meat, so then we're going to view them as two separate things, and therefore they will be nullified, and therefore the nevela will be nullified. And therefore, if the kosher meets the minority and the non-kosher meets the majority, you go after the minority. And the minority can never become the majority. Therefore, it's two separate species, and therefore it will cause nullification. Okay. Don't worry, it doesn't end there. Yeah. So now, Aliba de Man. So who is this? Aliba de Man, meaning who is? Are we asking Rav Chisda or Rabbi Chanina? Maybe Rav Chisda. Yeah, who does who? Rabbi Chisda or Rabbi Chanina? Who does who go? Rav Chisda or Rabbi Chanina? Or either one? Not either one. Probably Rav Chisda. On who? On Rav Chisda? What name is it? Oh, the rabbi. Oh, in general. Okay, who does so this dispute of Chisda and Rabbi Chanina? So who does it go according to? So now, aliba de Rabbanon. If it goes like the Rabbanon, ha'amri olin hu d'lamavatli adadi aval min b'mino patel. According to the rabbis, they only said that things that go up on the altar do not nullify each other if they're the same species. However, if it's not going on the altar, for sure the same species nullifies. So that means if you have 3 pieces of meat, and kosher meat's the majority, so then it nullifies the minority. And if 2 pieces are not kosher meat, it nullifies the kosher meat. It doesn't matter, because whatever the majority nullifies, and it becomes that. So they would not have these rules. Depends. Do you focus on the majority? If it can become like the minority, do you focus on the minority? They don't care. You just go after the majority, and that's that of the same species. That's the Rabbanan. And Aliba, Aliba Rabbi Yehuda, next page. The Rabbi Yehuda, Basar Chazusa Azil. Rabbi Yehuda says you go after the appearance. So meaning the blood, they're both blood. So that's why for Rabbi Yehuda, the case of the blood was they don't nullify each other. So now, in this case, the V'idi min b'minahu. According to Rabbi Yehuda, they're both pieces of meat. Look at them. Are they the same? Yes, they're the same. He holds pieces of meat never nullify each other. So basically, if you go like the Rabbanan, we always go after the majority. It doesn't matter. It's the same species. Same species nullifies each other. So, and if you like Rabbi Yehuda, same species never nullifies each other. So these opinions are not reflecting either of the 2 we had yesterday. So, Ella Aliba de Rabbi Chia. Maybe it's the third opinion of Rabbi Chia. The Tana Rabbi Chia Tana Brisa. Nevela v'shchuta. Betelos zubazu. Maybe really our earlier opinions, Rabbi Chanina and Rav Chisda, were each explaining their understanding of Rabbi Chia. According to Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis, nothing to talk about. But according to Rabbi Chia, there's what to talk about, because he says that nevelos and shchutos, kosher meat and non-kosher meat, nullify each other. So now, let's go one by one. Rabbi Chia aliba deman. So, one second. Who does Rabbi Chia go like? That nevela and shchuta can nullify each other. So, aliba de rabbana goes like the rabbis. According to the rabbis, they say only things that are offered up on the altar, which is not this case, non-kosher meat can't go on the altar, do not nullify each other. But things of the same species do nullify each other. So, and if it's Rabbi Yehuda, but the Rabbi Yehuda, Kol min b'mino, Rabbi Yehuda lo batel. Any 2 species don't nullify each other. So who exactly is this Rabbi Chia going like that Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Chanina and Rav Chisda and Rabbi Chanina are explaining? You're going to tell me they go like Rav Chia, but who does Rav Chia go like? And the assumption now is there isn't a third opinion. There's 2 opinions, how they interpret the verse by the blood on Yom Kippur, and those are our 2 opinions. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So, La'olam Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. Really, Rabbi Chia, meaning Rabbi Chanina and Rav Chisda, are arguing according to Rabbi Chia, and he accords with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds, once again, 2 things of the same species do not nullify each other, just like the blood. Bull blood and he-goat blood, it still calls it 2 different things. Even though they're mixed together, we do not nullify each other. So, how is this going to fit according to Rabbi Yehuda? We said according to Rabbi Yehuda, they don't nullify each other. So how over here does it matter? Like the minority, like the majority, who cares? Same species, same piece of meat, never nullify each other. So Liolam Aliv Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda min b'mina lo batel. When did Rabbi Yehuda say that things of the same species do not nullify each other? Hani mili heicha de ef sherlei l'mahave kevase batel. That's only when one could become like the other, and therefore they're viewed as the same species. But when one of them cannot become like the other, so then it's not going to be nullified, even though they look the same. Yeah. Ubeha kamiflagi the Rav Chisda. Ubeha kamiflagi, and this is the machlokas. The Rav Chisda savar. Rav Chisda says savar basar mivatel azlinan. Go after the one that's nullifying the majority. Rabbi Chanina savar basar batel azlinan. You go after the minority. according to Rav Chisda, if the majority could become like the minority, so then that's going to be the same species and it will not be nullified. And if the majority that's nullifying cannot become like the minority, so then it'll be different species and then it could nullify. Rabbi Chanina says, Basar batal azlinan, go after the minority. If the minority can become like the majority, it's the same species and will not be nullified. If the minority cannot be like the majority, it'll be different species and it will be nullified. Now we're going to bring 3 questions from all 3 cases of our Mishnah. And this is why it's more relevant to us. Okay. Ready? Ready. No, but whatever. It's 6:30. We have to go. So, now, at least it's honest. Shtei Menachos. 2 Menachos. Shalanikmatu v'nis avra zubazu. You have 2 Menachos that Kmitza was not taken off of, and they got mixed together. So, our Mishnah said, okay, the way Rashi learned is that there are different parts of the, of the vessel. If they're enough that you can clearly identify the separate sacrifices, and you have enough there to take Kmitza out, well, so very simple. If you go and take out Kmitza from here, Kmitza from there, even though they're mixed together, you can still take out some from here and some from here. So then that's going to be kosher. That's going to be good and valid. But if they're not identifiable, so then it's going to be invalid because we assume that one nullifies the other. They're two, yeah. So now, here we have 2 offerings that were not kmitza, shalom nikmitza. So now what happens? The hacha kevan de kametz lemechada. What happens when you took kmitza off of one of these offerings? So you have now what's left in the vessel: remnants from one and non-kmitza offering from the other. So now, right? So now what happens? Kevan de kametz lemechada ida chavale shirayim. So the other part becomes remnants. Now, can remnants nullify flour that kmitza has not been taken off of yet? Right? So now just plug it in for a second. Forget the details. Just you have non-kmitza flour on the one hand, which sounds like if there's more of that, right? And then you have remnants of the other offering, which are the minority. So now, can the minority ever become the majority? No. The minority has already been kmitza. It's remnants. Remnants cannot become unkmitza. That's magic. We don't do magic. So, on the other hand, though, the first offering that has not been kmitza, that could become remnant. When you take kmitza off of it right now, it'll become remnant. So, we have a majority and we have a minority, and yet we say that they do not nullify each other. Because when you take kmitza off of one, you could still take kmitza off the other one. Why don't they nullify each other? So now, money. Who's this going like? Rabbanan. If it's the rabbis, ha'amri olin hudlam avavli adadi, min b'mino batal. The rabbis say that things that are sacrificed cannot be nullified, but here the shirai and the remnants cannot go on the altar. So what do you have here? You have min b'mino. You have 2 things of the same species, and therefore it's going to nullify. And it should nullify it, and you should not be able to take kmitza off of the second sacrifice. So obviously it can't be the rabbis. Ela pshita Rabbi Yehuda. It's obvious that it's Rabbi Yehuda, okay, because he holds 2 things of the same species do not nullify each other. The way we're saying now that Rabbi Chia goes like Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chanina and Rav Chisda have a debate, so now it's going to depend. If you go after the minority is the flour that's been kmitzad, and you say it'll never become unkmitzad, and therefore we're going to view them as 2 different species, and therefore it will nullify the other one. So basar batal azlinan. So sorry. If you go after the minority, so batal havi kimav, it could be like the majority. How? When you take flour off of the other offering, they're both shirayim, havalu shirayim, yihani, and therefore it's like one species, and therefore they're not going to nullify each other, and you can still take kmitza off the other one. That's good. But El Lamana or Basar Mevatlazin, if you go after the Mevatel, the majority, which is the non-Kmitzad flour, so then Shirayim Mika Have Tivla. If you go after the majority, so you see that the sorry, I flipped it. No, Basar Mevatel is after the. Here it's saying if you go after Basar Mevatel as Linon, so what's going to happen? The Kmitzad flour will never become unkmitzad, and therefore it's going to continue being two separate species, and therefore they should really nullify each other, and you should not be able to do kmitza from the other one. Yeah. Okay. So we say, so that's a problem. I mean, according to one of the opinions of Rav Chia, that's a problem. So what are you going to say? So lema de lo Rabbi Chia. So maybe say it's not like, according to that opinion, it's not like Rabbi Chia. So we say Hasam could Reb Zera. It must be like Rabbi Zera. Who's Reb Zera? Reb Zera Nemar Haktara b'Komitz, Nemar Haktara b'Shirayim. It says bring up by the Komitz, and it says the word Haktara b'Shirayim, bring up by the remnants. Okay, Ma Haktara Hamura b'Komitz, just like Haktara, bring up on the altar is mentioned by Komitz, and the halacha is Ein HaKomitz Mevatel es Chavero. Komitz cannot nullify its friend. So to the word Haktara, Hamur b'Shirayim, doesn't mean you're going to offer up the remnants, but it's coming to teach you Ein Shirayim Mevatel es HaKomitz. So Rabbi Zera has a novel opinion that says the Zera Shabbat teaches you that just like Komitz is not Mevatel Komitz, so to the remnants is not Mevatel the Komitz, and therefore our Mishnah could fit according to that opinion because you have remnants and you have Komitz. We're going to view them as two separate. We're going to view them as there's a special halacha that one does not nullify the other. Period. Special Xer Shava. Yeah. So that's the first question on one of the opinions of the Rav Chia, and an answer. Now, next part of the Mishnah, Tashma HaKomitz and it's Ari b'Mincha Shelo Nikmitza Lo Yaktir. You have Komitz, and it's Ari b'Mincha Shelo Nikmitza. So you have your Komitz in your hand that fell back in to a mincha offering that was not kmitzah. So you cannot offer it up, lo yaktir, because the other offering hasn't been offered up yet. If you do it, zu shenikmitza also l'baylim, the one that was komitz is counts for the owners. They fulfill their obligation. The zu shelo nikmitza, the other offering, obviously that has not been taken off of, also l'baylim, has not counted for their owners because you never took komitz. You never took mitzvah. Now, now, 1 second. You just told me that two offerings got mixed together. Your komitz with your other flour offering, and yet you told it's mixed together. And when you bring up on the altar, the one that the komitz is taken out of is good, which means that they're not considered nullified. One did not nullify the other, because if the flour offering that kmitza was not taken off of would nullify the kmitza, so then there's no way to count that as per the owners. The only way to count it for the owners is if it was not nullified. Once it's nullified, it loses identity. It's a nobody anymore. So, yeah. So now, okay, so who's this like? So, money. Irabanan. If it's the rabbis, can't be. Ha-amri olin hudlamavatli hadadi, but ha-min b'mino batal. They hold one of two species nullify each other. And yet here, the knitzat offering is not nullified, proof being that it counts for the owners. Elapshita Rabbi Yehuda. Fine, it must be Rabbi Yehuda. Now, if you go after the mevatel, the one that's, I think, causing the nullification, so then, mevatel have kibatel. The mevatel is like the batel. Why? Because the flour that has not been knitzed yet, but it could become like knitzah. Each part of it is fitting to be komitz. The chol porta chazil lemekamitz minei v'havile min umino umino mino labatel. So since the flour that has not been kmitzad, the majority, could be like the minority, each particle of flour is possible to take kmitzah off of. So that's already makes it similar to the thing it's trying to nullify. two things of the same species are not nullified according to Rabbi Yehuda. That's why when you put up this flower offering onto the altar, we the one that was kmitza and got put back in is not nullified, and the owners, it'll still count for the owner's offering. But according to the other opinion, Elamanda or Basar Batalazlina, the minority, the part that was kmitza can never become not kmitza anymore. So it should be like two species and cause nullification. And yet we say it's like Rabbi Yehuda, but it's only according to one opinion if you're Rabbi Yehuda, not the other one. Can comets ever become uncomets? No. And therefore it should be two species and yes, be nullified. And therefore when you bring it up, not count for the owners. But we don't say that. So layman, what can you do? It's not like Reb. So that opinion will say, no, it's like Rabbi Zera. There's a special Zera Shav, a special exposition that that one, the comets cannot nullify the other offering. So fine. Third attack from our Mishnah Tashman is our comes to be Shirayim. Same offering. You took Kmitza off, it got mixed back in with the remnants, with the Shirayim. Shalchal Verta. What's the halacha? Lo yakter. You can't bring up remnants onto the altar. The im hiktir, also labailim. If you do it, once again, the owner's count. It counts for the owner's offering. Now, hold on. The remnant is more than the kmitza. So you have kmitza mixed with remnants. Remnants is the majority. It should nullify the minority of the kmitza. We should view them all as remnants, and nothing should count for the owners. But it does. It does count for the owners. How could that be? So, the remnants cannot become like the comets. And yet, what happens? They do not nullify the comets. But why not? If they can't become like the comets, it should be two different species mixed together, and one should nullify the other. But look about they share on the comets. Money. Who's the Mishnah like? Same thing. Irabana. At this point we did already, etc. Irabana chula. If it's the rabbis, so they hold that one species nullifies each other. It can't be the rabbis. Elamai Matsu Rabbi Yehuda. If it's Rabbi Yehuda, it's only according to one opinion, like according to Rabbi Yehuda. So what that opinion going to say? Maybe it's not going to be like Rabbi. No, it cannot. So rather, we can say instead of saying it's not like Rabbi, it'll be like Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera Nemar Aktar becomes Nemar Aktar b'Shirayim. Mahaktar Amur becomes Ein Komas Vatlas Chazero. Avaktar Amur b'Shirayim. Ein Shirayim Mevatlas Komets. Just like one comets can nullify another comets, so to the Shirayim, the remnants cannot nullify the comets. Special exposition. Okay. Fine. Those were the proofs from our Mishnah. Okay. I didn't plan for further, so let's see. Tashma. Okay. Fresh off the book. Tashma. Tivla. The Ketzach Shumshimin, who bechol mine tavlin shera. So you have, we're talking about Pesach now, yeah? So you have Tivla the Ketzach. Okay, so what does that mean? What's Ketzach? Some kind of spice? You spiced up the Ketzach. You spice what? Your flour. The Ketzach, the Shumshimin, the Komin Tavla. You spiced up your dough for Pesach to make matzah with all kinds of spices. So we say that's going to be shera. Matzahi, that's called matzah. Ella shenikra matzah mituvelis. But it's called matzah mituvelis. It's called spiced up flavored matzah. And therefore what? And therefore you can use it for the Seder, and therefore what? Okay. Because Sakadaitach, the officially Tavlin Tfemi Matzah. The assumption is, when you read this, is that there's more spices than there is matzah. So what should happen? The spices should nullify the dough. When you have more spices, you overdid it. And therefore there's more than the matzah, and therefore it's called matzah mituvelis, meaning it's not valid, right? It's just called, it's more spices than it is matzah. Interesting. Yes. Look, what's this? what's the case if this happens? Whoever has more spices than they have dough. Or like, how does it happen? So Tosa says that even though it's not the normal way to do things, but every so often, a lot of spices end up in one place. And that whole place is mostly spices. It's unlikely you can have more spices than a whole patch of dough, but the point is in one area, as long as they can gather up together in one area of dough and have a majority in that area be spices and not dough. And that's going to be called already matzah mituvelas. It's called spices, not really called matzah. So now, once again, so batal have kimavatal. The minority could be like the majority. Once the dough goes bad, it'll no longer be matzah. It'll be like the spices that you can't use as matzah. So if that's true, then they're the same species, and therefore it'll cause nullification. If you go after the mevatel, the majority, so tavlin mikave matzah. Last we checked, we can never use the spices instead of our matzah for the Pesach Seder. So we have to say, what are we talking about? The little officially tavlin. There's not that there's more spices, rather the ruba matzahi, below bata, there's more matzah, more dough than there is spices, and therefore below bata, the matzah is not nullified. Dekanami dekatoni matzahi elashin nikres matzah v'vel shmamina. You can even prove this from the wording. The wording says it's called matzah, which is called spicy matzah, but it's still called matzah because matzah is the majority. So we thought that the spices was the majority, at least in one area. The answer is no. The matzah is the majority. It's just called matzah mituvelas. So, and therefore, what's with matzah mituvelas? Is that a problem? I don't know. We have to figure that out for tomorrow. It's just that poor man's bed.